The champagne flute trembled in my hand as I watched my ex-wife Marlena dance with my father at their wedding reception. The crystal caught the light from the chandeliers above, casting fractured rainbows across my knuckles, much like how my entire world had shattered into a million pieces 18 months ago. But tonight, as she spun in that $15,000 dress he'd bought her, laughing with that familiar throaty sound I once loved, I wasn't the broken man she thought she'd left behind. Tonight, I was something far more dangerous. A man with nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Before we go any further, welcome back to Revenge Stories with Kyle, and if this is your first time watching any of our videos, we encourage you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us, and it motivates us to continue creating even more powerful stories for you. So stick with us to the very end. And if this story moves you, drop your comments and share with a friend. Now, let's dive back in. My name is Cameron Hayes, and I'm 34 years old. For the past 8 years, I've worked as a forensic accountant for a mid-sized firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. People often ask what draws someone to spend their days digging through financial records, hunting for discrepancies and hidden truths. The answer is simple. I believe in justice. Not the dramatic, explosive kind you see in movies, but the quiet, methodical kind that comes from patience, precision, and an unwavering commitment to uncovering what people desperately want to keep buried. My colleagues used to joke that I could find financial impropriety in a church collection plate. They had no idea how prophetic those words would become. Growing up, I was the kind of kid who noticed everything. While other children played video games, I kept detailed journals about family dynamics, neighborhood gossip, and the small inconsistencies in adult behavior that revealed larger truths. My mother, Sarah, encouraged this observational nature, though she worried I might grow up too serious, too calculating. She died when I was 19, leaving just my father, Roland, and me to navigate life together. He was a successful general contractor then, building custom homes for Charlotte's wealthy elite. We weren't close. He was always more comfortable with blueprints than emotions, but we had an understanding built on mutual respect and shared grief. When I met Marlena Delacroix at 22, she was everything I wasn't: spontaneous, vivacious, and utterly magnetic. She worked as a marketing coordinator for a high-end jewelry store and possessed an innate understanding of luxury that I found both fascinating and foreign. Where I saw price tags, she saw possibilities. Where I calculated long-term financial implications, she saw opportunities to live fully in the moment. She had this way of tilting her head when she listened, making you feel like you were the only person in the world who mattered. I was hopelessly, completely captivated. Our early years were a study in opposites attracting. I brought stability and security to her chaotic world, while she brought color and adventure to my structured existence. We married after 3 years of dating in a small ceremony that she reluctantly agreed to, though I could see her disappointment when she looked at other couples' elaborate celebrations. I promised myself that someday, when my career was more established, I'd give her the fairy tale wedding she deserved. That someday became a recurring theme in our marriage. Someday we'd travel to Europe. Someday we'd buy the house with the walk-in closets. Someday we'd start the family she occasionally mentioned in wistful moments. But someday is a dangerous word when you're married to someone whose dreams operate on a different timeline than your methodical plans. As my career progressed and our financial situation improved, I thought Marlena would be happy. We had a comfortable home, reliable income, and the kind of steady partnership that I believed formed the foundation of lasting love. What I failed to recognize was that comfort and excitement are not the same thing. While I was building our future brick by brick, she was slowly suffocating under the weight of predictable routine. The first crack in our marriage appeared around year 7, though I didn't recognize it at the time. Marlena started spending more time with friends, staying out later, and developing interests that didn't include me. When I'd ask about her evenings out, she'd wave dismissively and say I wouldn't understand. She wasn't wrong. I didn't understand why someone would choose uncertainty over security, why they'd risk what we'd built for the fleeting thrill of something new. But I loved her, so I gave her space, trusting that whatever phase she was going through would pass. My father, meanwhile, had expanded his contracting business into real estate development. By the time I turned 30, Roland Hayes was one of Charlotte's most successful builders, with a portfolio that included luxury subdivisions and commercial properties. Success had changed him. Gone was the modest, hard-working man who'd raised me. In his place stood someone who drove expensive cars, wore designer suits, and surrounded himself with the trappings of wealth. He'd also started dating women closer to my age than his own, a development that made family gatherings increasingly uncomfortable. The betrayal began, I now realize, during my 32nd birthday party. Marlena had insisted on hosting it at our house, inviting both our friends and family for what she called a proper celebration. I remember feeling grateful for her effort, touched that she wanted to bring our worlds together. My father arrived fashionably late, bearing an expensive bottle of wine and compliments about how beautiful Marlena looked in her new dress. At the time, I attributed his attention to simple politeness. Now I understand it was the opening move in a game I didn't even know was being played. Over the following months, their interactions took on a different quality. She'd light up when he called, laugh a little too hard at his stories, and find excuses to visit his construction sites when I was at work. Roland, for his part, began showing unusual interest in our marriage, asking probing questions about our plans, our happiness, our future. I should have recognized the signs. After all, detecting deception was my profession. But there's a particular blindness that comes from loving someone completely. A willingness to explain away obvious red flags because the alternative is too devastating to consider. The truth revealed itself on a Tuesday evening in March, 18 months ago. I'd come home early from work, looking forward to surprising Marlena with dinner reservations at the restaurant where we'd had our first date. Instead, I found her car gone and a note on the kitchen counter. Her handwriting, usually neat and controlled, was shaky, as if the words had been difficult to write. Cameron, I can't live this life anymore. I know this will hurt you, and I'm sorry for that, but I can't keep pretending to be someone I'm not. I need more than what we have, more than what you can give me. I've tried to love the life we built together, but I feel like I'm disappearing a little more each day. I'm staying with your father for now. I know how this looks, and I know how much this will hurt you both, but sometimes love isn't enough. Please don't try to contact me. I need time to figure out what comes next. M. I read that note 17 times before the words fully registered. She wasn't just leaving me, she was leaving me for my father. The two people I'd trusted most in the world had conspired to destroy everything I'd built my identity around. I called her phone, straight to voicemail. I drove to my father's house. No one answered the door, though I could see lights on inside and her car in the driveway. That night, I sat in my empty house and felt something I'd never experienced before. Complete emotional annihilation. Not just sadness or anger, but a profound sense that the fundamental rules governing my universe had been rewritten without my consent. The methodical, logical approach I'd always relied on seemed suddenly inadequate for navigating this new reality where fathers stole their sons' wives and wives abandoned 12 years of shared history for the promise of a more exciting future. For 3 months, I heard nothing directly from either of them. Our divorce proceeded through lawyers, with Marlena's attorney delivering cold, clinical communications about asset division. She was entitled to half of everything, of course, despite being the one who chose to leave. Through mutual friends, I learned that she and my father were taking things slowly, as if their relationship were some organic development rather than a calculated betrayal that had destroyed two families simultaneously. The worst part wasn't the loneliness or even the humiliation. It was the way their relationship had rewritten the history of my marriage. Every happy memory was now tainted with the question of when exactly she'd started viewing me as insufficient. Had she been comparing me to him during our anniversary dinners? Had she been calculating his net worth while lying next to me at night? The woman I'd loved completely had essentially auditioned my replacement while still wearing my ring. I threw myself into work with obsessive intensity, accepting every case that crossed my desk and volunteering for the complex investigations that other accountants avoided. My supervisor, Janet Morrison, initially attributed my sudden productivity to healthy coping mechanisms. But as months passed and I continued working 12-hour days, she began expressing concern about burnout. I assured her I was fine, and in a twisted way, I was. Immersing myself in other people's financial deceptions provided a strange comfort, proof that betrayal was a universal human experience, not a personal failing unique to me. It was during this period of workaholic numbness that I received the phone call that changed everything. My father, calling from an unknown number, his voice carefully modulated to project concern rather than guilt. "Cameron, we need to talk. I know you're hurt, and you have every right to be angry with me. But I want you to know that what happened between Marlena and me wasn't planned. It just developed naturally. We're both adults, and we both care about you very much. She misses you, son. We both do." The audacity of that conversation still takes my breath away. He wanted my understanding, my forgiveness, my blessing for a relationship built on the ruins of my marriage. When I remained silent, he continued, "I know this is hard to accept, but sometimes these things just happen. Your mother and I, we had our problems too, though you were too young to see them. Marriage is complicated, Cameron. Sometimes people grow apart, and sometimes they find connections in unexpected places. This right here is why trust is the most expensive thing in a relationship. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe now if you've ever been hurt by someone you trusted." That's when something crystallized inside me. He wasn't calling to apologize or explain. He was calling to rewrite history, to transform their betrayal into some kind of romantic inevitability. In his version of events, my 12-year marriage had been a temporary arrangement, a placeholder until Marlena could find her real soulmate. The dismissive tone, the casual cruelty of comparing their affair to my parents' marriage, the sheer narcissism of expecting my understanding, it all revealed a level of selfishness that I'd never fully recognized in him. 6 months later, they announced their engagement. I learned about it the same way everyone else did, through a Facebook post featuring Marlena's massive diamond ring and a caption about finding love when you least expect it. The comments section was a masterclass in social media diplomacy, with friends and family members offering carefully worded congratulations that avoided mentioning the obvious complications. My Aunt Linda, my mother's sister, was the only one brave enough to post what everyone was thinking. This seems incredibly inappropriate given the circumstances. That night, I made a decision. I was done being the victim in their story. I was done allowing them to control the narrative of my life. Most importantly, I was done pretending that their actions didn't deserve consequences. They wanted to build their happiness on the foundation of my destroyed marriage? Fine. But they were going to do it while facing the full truth about who they really were. I'd always been good at finding financial irregularities, but this investigation would be different. This was personal. This was justice. The first thing I discovered was almost laughably predictable. My father had been cheating on his taxes for years. As a successful contractor and real estate developer, Roland Hayes had numerous opportunities to hide income and inflate expenses. What I found in his financial records was a systematic pattern of fraud that stretched back nearly a decade. He'd been underreporting income from cash transactions, claiming personal expenses as business costs, and maintaining a complex web of shell companies designed to obscure the true extent of his wealth. But tax evasion was just the beginning. Digging deeper into his business operations, I uncovered something far more damaging. He'd been systematically overbilling his construction clients for materials and labor, then kick back portions of those inflated costs to himself through his various subsidiaries. The scheme was sophisticated and well concealed, but not invisible to someone who knew exactly what to look for. The real breakthrough came when I started investigating his relationship with city planning officials. Roland Hayes' success wasn't just due to business acumen. It was built on a foundation of corruption that included bribes to planning commissioners, illegal campaign contributions to city council members, and a systematic effort to secure favorable zoning decisions for his development projects. I found evidence of cash payments disguised as consulting fees, luxury vacations provided to public officials, and even direct cash bribes delivered through intermediaries. But I wasn't done. If I was going to destroy them, I needed to understand the full scope of their deception. That's when I turned my attention to Marlena. My ex-wife, it turned out, was far more calculating than I'd ever realized. While married to me, she'd opened several credit cards in my name without my knowledge, using them to fund shopping trips and lifestyle expenses she'd hidden from me. More damaging still, she'd been having an affair with my father for nearly 2 years before leaving me. Not the spontaneous romantic development they claimed, but a carefully orchestrated plan designed to maximize her financial security. I found hotel receipts, restaurant charges, and even jewelry purchases that painted a clear picture of their extended deception. She hadn't left me for love, she'd left me for money, trading up to a man whose net worth was significantly higher than mine. The romantic narrative they'd constructed was pure fiction, designed to make their betrayal seem like destiny rather than calculated opportunity. The evidence was overwhelming, meticulously documented, and legally devastating. I had enough information to destroy both of their careers, expose their fraudulent activities to law enforcement, and ensure that their stolen happiness would come at the cost of everything else they valued. For weeks, I struggled with what to do next. The ethical part of me, the part that still remembered the man I'd been before their betrayal, wanted to walk away. But the wounded, angry part of me demanded justice. Not revenge exactly, but consequences. Well, I guess you can call it revenge, but they'd chosen to destroy my life for their own benefit. Why should they escape the natural results of their actions? If your partner did this, would you walk away or seek revenge? Be honest. Leave your thoughts in the comments and hit the subscribe button now for more chilling stories like this. The solution came to me during one of my late-night investigation sessions. They wanted a fairy tale wedding? They wanted to celebrate their love publicly, surrounded by family and friends who'd watch them destroy my marriage? Perfect. I'd give them a wedding they'd never forget. Their engagement party was held at the Charlotte Country Club 6 months before their wedding. I wasn't invited, obviously, but I drove past the parking lot and saw the expensive cars, the elaborate decorations, the celebration of their union built on my destruction. That's when I knew exactly how this needed to end. I spent the next 6 months preparing, not just gathering evidence, but organizing it into a comprehensive package that would be impossible to ignore or dismiss. Financial records, photographs, witness statements, recorded phone conversations, everything needed to prove beyond doubt that Roland Hayes was a criminal and Marlena was his willing accomplice. I also spent time preparing myself emotionally for what I was about to do. There would be no going back after this. Once I revealed the truth about who they really were, every bridge would be burned, every relationship severed. I'd be free of them forever, but I'd also be completely alone. The wedding was everything Marlena had ever dreamed of. 500 guests, a live orchestra, flowers imported from Ecuador, and enough champagne to float a small boat. She looked radiant in her custom gown, every inch the blushing bride finally getting her fairy tale moment. My father, distinguished in his tailored tuxedo, played the role of devoted groom with convincing sincerity. I'd purchased a ticket to the reception through a mutual friend, claiming I wanted to offer my congratulations and prove I'd moved on with my life. Several people seemed surprised to see me, but no one questioned my presence directly. After all, what kind of person crashes their ex-wife's wedding to their own father? The evening proceeded exactly as I'd expected. Elegant toasts, sentimental speeches, and careful avoidance of the obvious elephant in the room. I nursed a single glass of wine and watched the celebration with detached fascination, marveling at how easily people could pretend that this was a normal, healthy union worthy of celebration. Near the end of the evening, as the crowd began to thin and the older guests started making their exits, I approached Marlena at the head table. She was slightly drunk, flushed with champagne and triumph, surrounded by gifts and well-wishers. When she saw me walking toward her, her expression shifted from surprise to something that looked almost like guilt. "Cameron," she said, her voice carefully modulated, "I'm so glad you came. It means a lot that you're here." "I wouldn't miss it," I replied, keeping my tone light and friendly. "You look beautiful, Marlena. This is everything you always wanted, isn't it?" She smiled, but there was something sharp in her expression. "Yes, it really is. Roland gives me things you never could, Cameron. A real life, real excitement, real security. You never understood what I needed." "You're right," I said, reaching into my jacket pocket. "I never did understand, but I understand now." That's when I handed her the envelope. It was cream-colored, expensive paper that matched the wedding invitations. Inside were copies of every piece of evidence I'd gathered: tax documents, financial records, photographs of her fraudulent credit card applications, bank statements showing the bribes my father had paid to city officials, and a detailed timeline of their 2-year affair. "What is this?" she asked, though something in her expression suggested she already knew. "It's a wedding gift," I said quietly. "Everything you and Roland have been hiding from each other and from everyone else. I thought you should know exactly who you married." I watched her face change as she opened the envelope and began reading. The color drained from her cheeks, her hands started trembling, and her carefully composed expression crumbled into something approaching terror. "Cameron, you can't. This isn't. Where did you get this?" "Does it matter?" I asked. "The question is, what are you going to do about it?" By now, my father had noticed our conversation and was walking over, his face concerned. "Is everything all right over here?" I handed him an identical envelope. "Just sharing some family memories, Dad. Congratulations on your marriage, by the way. I hope you'll be very happy together." Roland opened his envelope with the confidence of a man who'd never been caught. That confidence evaporated as he read the first page, then the second, then frantically shuffled through the rest of the documents. His face went from confusion to shock to something approaching panic. "Son, this isn't what it looks like. I can explain." "No need," I interrupted. It's exactly what it looks like. The IRS will receive their copies tomorrow morning. The district attorney will get theirs tomorrow afternoon. The Charlotte Observer's investigation team will have their copies by evening. Oh, and I've already sent duplicates to every major client you've worked with in the past 5 years. I thought they should know exactly how you've been billing them. The silence that followed was deafening. Around us, the reception continued, but at our table, the world had stopped. Marlena was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks, the perfect bride transformed into something broken and desperate. "You can't do this," she whispered. "Please, Cameron, we can work something out. We can fix this." "Fix what, exactly?" I asked. "Your marriage? Your reputation? Your future?" "I don't think so, Marlena. You both made your choices. Now you get to live with the consequences." My father, to his credit, tried a different approach. "Cameron, I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but this will destroy everything I've built. Think about your mother. Think about our family legacy. This kind of scandal will hurt everyone, not just us." "My mother is dead," I said quietly. "She doesn't have to see what you've become. And our family legacy? You destroyed that the moment you decided my wife was worth more than your son." I stood up, straightening my jacket. Around the reception hall, a few people were starting to notice that something was wrong at the head table. The bride was crying, the groom looked like he'd seen a ghost, and the uninvited guest was walking away with the calm satisfaction of someone who'd finally completed a long and difficult project. I called over my shoulder, "Enjoy your honeymoon. I hope it's everything you dreamed it would be." That was 8 months ago. The consequences unfolded exactly as I'd predicted, with the methodical precision of a well-planned investigation coming to its natural conclusion. The IRS launched a comprehensive audit that resulted in Roland Hayes facing federal tax evasion charges. The district attorney's corruption investigation led to indictments for bribery and fraudulent business practices. His construction company collapsed within weeks as clients terminated contracts and former business partners distanced themselves from the scandal. Marlena fared no better. Her credit card fraud came to light during the divorce proceedings. Yes, they were divorced within 3 months of their wedding, and she faced criminal charges of her own. The jewelry store where she'd worked terminated her employment once the scandal became public, and her reputation in Charlotte's social circles was permanently destroyed. But the most satisfying consequence was watching their fairy tale romance crumble under the weight of truth. When people marry for money and status rather than genuine connection, those relationships rarely survive financial catastrophe. They turned on each other with the same ruthless selfishness they'd once directed at me, each blaming the other for their mutual destruction. My father is currently serving an 18-month federal sentence while fighting additional state charges. Marlena moved back to her hometown in Florida, where she's working as a cashier at a discount retail store and living with her elderly mother. The life of luxury she'd sacrificed our marriage to obtain lasted exactly 8 months. Do I feel guilty about orchestrating their downfall? Sometimes, late at night, when I'm alone in my apartment, I wonder if I went too far. But then I remember her smirk at the reception, her casual cruelty about giving her the life she deserved, and the 2 years of deception that preceded their public betrayal. They didn't just leave me, they systematically destroyed my ability to trust, to love, to believe in the fundamental goodness of the people closest to me. Justice isn't always pretty, and it rarely feels as satisfying as we imagine it will. But sometimes, when the system fails and the guilty escape consequences, individuals have to create their own accountability. I didn't manufacture evidence or fabricate crimes. I simply revealed the truth about who they really were beneath their carefully constructed facades. These days, I live quietly. I moved to a smaller apartment, changed jobs to a firm that specializes in white-collar crime investigation, and slowly began rebuilding my life on more honest foundations. I date occasionally, though trust doesn't come easily anymore. I've learned to find satisfaction in simple pleasures, good books, long walks, the quiet pride that comes from doing difficult work well. Sometimes I drive past the house where Marlena and I lived together for 12 years. The new owners have painted it a different color and landscaped the yard in ways that erase all traces of our shared history. It's exactly as it should be, a clean slate, free from the ghosts of broken promises and stolen dreams. The truth about revenge is that it doesn't heal anything. It doesn't restore what was lost or undo the damage that was done. But sometimes it's not about healing. Sometimes it's about ensuring that actions have consequences, that betrayal comes with a price, and that people who destroy others' lives can't simply walk away unscathed. My wife left me for my father after 12 years together. They thought they could build their happiness on the foundation of my destroyed life. They were wrong. In the end, the only thing they built together was their own destruction, brick by methodical brick, with the same precision I once applied to building our future. And that, I've discovered, is its own kind of justice. If you loved and enjoyed this story, do not forget to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it. Until our next update, take care.